Good day and welcome back to another Dbz Dokkan metal video. In this video we are going to take a look at how the brand new TEQ Kale and Caulifla unit does in the Gods of Destruction event. So the brand new TEQ Kale and Caulifla unit are pretty good. They are a bond of friendship and a rapid growth category lead, and as a unit they're pretty straightforward. They have 160% starting attack and defense, they have the ability to fire off multiple attacks, and they also stack attack and defense up to 60% per attack performed, along with also raising attack and defense on their super attack. So as you can see here, they have a very good starting attack damage. A perk for this unit is the fact that they will be fighting Universal Survival Saga enemies. All of the Gods of Destruction count as Universal Survival Saga enemies. So essentially, based on what we're seeing here, they're going to be pretty good. They have a really nice starting attack. They have a defense that will accelerate at a reasonable enough pace to make them tanky in the event. And yeah, they have their fusion, which also is very useful and will provide a heal. So overall, they look pretty solid as an option for the team. They also can operate as a pseudo lead for the Universe 6 team, which in the case of Helez, which is the God of Destruction that we are facing here, is actually a very strong and powerful team to take on this particular God of Destruction, because Helez constantly changes type, having things like evasion, having things like guard against all types, having the stacking, having the damage reduction of this team is very powerful and very helpful overall. So yeah, the TEQ Kale and Caulifla unit. So obviously, as we took a look at them in the review, they're a very rock solid unit with a simple passive and a simple premise. They will continue to get stronger as the event continues, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think their simplicity makes them highly effective on multiple categories. They have a great link set in terms of having multiple key links, but it means that on their strongest teams they don't gain as much benefit as, say, like a Freezer would on a Wicked Bloodlines team. You know, you compare the Tech Freezer and you link him up with Physical Cooler, and they both have big bad bosses. They have multiple links that can activate and give them a real sizable advantage. It's not really the same for the Universe 6 Saiyans, and especially for TEQ Kale and Caulifla. A lot of the links are, 2 key plus 5% attack, 2 key plus 5% attack and defense. Very small additions. They will make them more powerful, but overall they are not the kind of unit that just shows up and looks fantastic all the time because of linking, but that means that they don't need the links to look fantastic, so kind of doubles up on that front. You can see here after one turn they're sitting at 179,000 defense, which is a good point. We are fighting a N-type unit currently. Helez is turned into a N-type unit, so we are still going to use an item because obviously not using an item isn't advised. 180k defense is very good. They will have a higher amount of defense as well after they transform, or after they fire their super attack, but it's not entirely I don't know if it'll be enough to tank super attacks or normal attacks very well from a int type God of Destruction. That being said, their defense is stacking at a very good pace, which is obviously what we want. And overall, they're looking pretty solid as a unit. 3.5 or 3.4 million attack stats are really helpful. As I mentioned before in the review, you are going to want to build these guys into crit. It is just generally the best way to go, and the reason being is when you build them into crit, they can really take advantage of these additional attacks and this additional attack damage against Gods of Destruction and deal out some really strong blows to the enemy. When you don't have critical hits or attacks effective against all types. You can have these big attack stats like 3.4 million or 3.5 million, but they just won't register to be as powerful or as impactful as some lower attack stats, but that do crit or that do have attacks effective against all types. So yeah, overall, they're still really ridiculously solid. Their kit kind of makes them naturally just that solid unit that just, does like a lot of damage, that has a very solid amount of defense, that can tank and that can do really well. We saw in their second turn that they had 179k. They are a unit with 1 dupe, so they definitely can get higher depending on how many dupes you have, but that's still already a very impressive point. So for me, honestly speaking, I think they're an exceptional unit for the Gods of Destruction event. I think it's the kind of event where they have that 1 or 2 turns to really build up their attack and defense, which does help them quite a bit. The additional attack damage against Universal Survival Saga enemies also helps them quite a lot. And yeah, their ability to stack their defense, because they have that additional attack and defense of 60% from their passive that they can gain when they are stacking. They essentially are a lot more improved from that aspect. So yeah, overall, I think they've done really well so far. I think the attack stats have been good. They've managed to tank with items. They have a very solid amount of defense, and they're very strong on this team. So yeah, for me, I don't really see anything wrong with their performance so far. I think they're performing as expected. Very solid unit that's just progressively getting stronger as we go along. I mean, if we take a look here in this turn, they're sitting with 224,000 defense, which is again super duper solid. You're going to be able to fire your super attack, and that's really going to be able to raise your defense once more. We've gone from 120 to 172 to 224, and the next round of super attack should really push them to about 270k, which is realistically a super solid point. There's no real need to go higher than 270k in events like the Legendary Goku event, the GT version. Obviously, it'll be helpful for them to stack even further, but it's not entirely necessary. They really can just do some really good damage, and their defense gets to a incredibly reliable point. So from my perspective, pretty happy with how they're performing. We're going to go until we can get their fusion, because we want to see how their fusion performs in the God of Destruction event. But the good perk of their fusion is obviously that heal, that ability to heal back 60% of your health, which is always super reliable. They do technically become slightly worse defensively when they transform, but they gain the chance to evade, which is again super helpful. And they also gain a better chance to proc additional super attacks, I believe. So yeah, they're pretty solid from that front. So I think we've seen everything of the base forms. In terms of the transformation, they do lose some links. So unless you have a Caulifla on your team, they won't link so nicely as they do as their base form, because their base form essentially just shares a whole bunch of links with Caulifla and Kale and things like that. So yeah, from that perspective, they don't link as nicely. But honestly speaking, depending on the situation, it's probably worth it. The heal's obviously super valuable. The evasion also is super helpful. So you can't really discount either of those mechanics when you are electing to take the fusion. Even if it may seem a little bit underwhelming to lose defense, you should have them stacked up to a decent enough point that even if you transform them in the first turn, they should have more than satisfactory defense to handle certain situations. So yeah, from that perspective, I think, I really just like the toolkit that they bring, and I think they are rock solid on that front. Obviously, Heles is going to change to a tech type, but we'll finish it up with this transformation. So I'll let you watch the animation without me getting too involved, and then we'll talk about it afterwards. So there we go, we got the transformation. Obviously she's looking pretty fly, and we can see there she's lost 1 or 2 links. Her defense has dropped slightly as well, but it's still at a very solid amount, 242k. And she now has evasion as well, so we'll see whether that evasion comes into play, and it does. And you can see there the immediate benefit of the evasion. So yeah, I think we've seen everything we need to see from TEQ, Kale and Caulifla. Even with just a single dupe, they are a super viable unit when it comes to the Gods of Destruction event. It is going to depend on the type of event and what team you're running, but their kit is generally fast enough in terms of stacking to make them useful from a defensive point of view. The heal from the transformation is super powerful, and the evasion really helps bring everything together. So with that being said, I believe that Kale and Caulifla are a rock solid option when it comes to Gods of Destruction events, and you can definitely take them into these events or run a team under them, and you will see some really good results. But yeah, that's pretty much going to be it from me, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy the video, leave a like and a comment down below. Otherwise, stay safe, take care, and I'll see you next time. Until then, bye.